Good morning to everyone here in the sanctuary and to those of you watching from home. It's good to be together again. We are the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Grand Traverse, and you are welcome here in all your joyousness and in all your sadness, just how you are. My name's Amanda Mangiardi, and I am today's service coordinator. We're glad you're here. Friends, as you know, part of our weekly service is dedicated to building our beloved community. And the connections we have to one another are strengthened when we share our joys and concerns with one another. If you're in the sanctuary today, you may write your joy and concern in the book over here by the candle. For those of you who are enjoying the service at home, you should have typed in your message using the chat button and pushed return to send it to Jeff before the service started. All joys and concerns will be read later on in the service so that we may each be present, listen, and each send love and light or share in heartfelt joy. Friends, our service today is called Your 5 Minutes. This is an opportunity to share your thoughts with the congregation. We have 3 congregants ready to share, and there will be an opportunity for anyone else who would like to come up to the podium and share your thoughts. We would love to hear them. So please collect your thoughts, and if you have not done so, please silence your cell phones. And now we'll listen to our prelude music, Open My Eyes. Thank you, Julie. Our service today focuses on personal thoughts, spirituality, and connections with one another and with our spirituality. I'd like to share this reading by Laura Solomon called Us Human Here. As we collectively attempt to process the trauma, pain, and senseless violence in our world today, we should keep Araceli Gourmet's phrase in our heart and minds, "You are who I love." Many believe that religion is the place where we find answers and meaning to the unanswerable questions. For some, religious Religion is the place where answers to the unanswerable questions about evil and violence, death, injustice, and cruelty reside. Our Unitarian Universalism doesn't give us answers to the unanswerable questions. About evil, violence, death, and cruelty. It does give us a faith big enough to hold our questions in a place beyond answers. To be human is not to have answers. To be human is to feel as though the enormity of sorrow, anger, grief, and pain will pull us into the undertow. Our Unitarian Universalist faith reminds us that is simply the way of it. Our hearts are meant to crack open under the enormity of grief and trouble in our world today. Because of this cracking and unknowing, because of this stumbling and holding one another, you are who I love. Friends, we honor and acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the original homeland of the Anishinaabe, who are the Ojibwe and Ottawa in our region. We raise the birch bark basket, holding the 4 sacred medicines of sage, cedar, tobacco, and sweetgrass to remind us to hold space for the Anishinaabe as we work to reconcile the harm of colonization. A Chalice Lighting for When Things Are Not Okay by Reverend Molly Brewer. My beloved people, I cannot pretend, and so I will not tell you, that everything is okay right now, that there must be a reason to be angry, or that you must be optimistic or at peace. I cannot pretend those things, and so I won't tell you to. But as our chalice is lit, let's remember the words of Rebecca Parker. There is a love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all. By the light of our chalice, let us rest in this love. As we ring the bowl, please let this sound carry you into a deeper listening place. Thank you, Chuck. And now our hymn, Gather in Spirit.
That's 347. Or up on the wall. Please rise as you're willing and able.
Gather the Spirit, our rest upon
Friends, as you know, our baskets have two sides. One is for running the church, and the other is for community outreach. Our congregation, through all of you, helps support many important community outreach programs. Please know that all gifts, small and large, are received with gratitude. Here in the sanctuary, we are passing the baskets. There are other ways you can express your generosity. You can mail a check to the congregation. You can visit the UUCGT website. You can use your phone or iPad and download the Vanco mobile app. May our offerings sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and hope and know that our contributions will be used mindfully. Now we will listen to the meditation music by Julie. We would be one.
My spirituality and my spiritual practice. How do I begin? The word spiritual is an essential piece of our UU lexicon. I use it the same way people in other religions refer to the word God, which for me has a bit too much baggage. For me, and I imagine for many of us, the word acknowledges that there is something beyond us as we sit on our narrow perch in the tree of life and within the greater order of things. I use the word prayerfully and worshipfully to affirm my belief that there is a higher truth and beauty and a deeper wisdom, and that I aspire to connect with it. My spiritual practice consists of all that I do to help me make and feel that connection. While there are perhaps hundreds of books written about spirituality, the definition is elusive. What the word refers to generally is ultimately defined as a subjective feeling. I love the religious phrase, peace, which goes beyond all understanding. I also love how a Supreme Court years ago, a Supreme Court justice once defined pornography. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. I think that works for spirituality as well. Easier to feel than to define. So, how do I nurture the feeling of connection? One way is through language, especially poetic language. Mary Oliver's poetry evokes a spiritual response that for me goes well beyond the words in the poem. I can open a book by someone like Pema Chodron and find a passage that transports me to a place that is both higher and deeper. Poetic language goes beyond the analytical left hemisphere and into the mind writ large, creating waves of meaning beyond the words themselves. When I was younger, I experimented lightly and briefly with psychoactive drugs. Drugs that I thought at the time were psilocybin and LSD, although I really don't know. I think they were. I never had a bad time with it, but I lost interest eventually. For me, these were gateway drugs in the sense that they made me aware of a level of consciousness beyond my everyday world and got me into meditation, although in a rather undisciplined, haphazard way at that time. Visual arts can evoke spiritual responses wordlessly. Most of us know of paintings, sculptures, photography that speaks to us in ways that are hard to put into words. The process of creating a painting, for me, is an act of seeking that deeper connection. Sometimes I think I try too hard, focusing too much on technique. The highest praise anybody can give my work is to tell me that my paintings make them feel good. Then there's music, period. Who doesn't have a musical piece that takes them beyond their consciousness? I happen to have a friend who meditates at her piano because she has to. Nature. For me, communing with nature is a spiritual practice. Sitting on a mountainside, gazing across the broad valley, looking down on a pair of ravens as they fly below me. Sitting in a grassy meadow of wildflowers, laying back and watching the clouds. Swimming in a pristine lake or kayaking down a clear stream are all to me prayer, wordless prayer. It's like I'm saying, shut up and pray. Kindred spirits. By joining with like-minded people, we can amplify and enrich our collective spiritual experiences. Drumming circles, singing in a choir, participating in a spiritually focused book club or study group are places where I have joined together with others to create a level of spiritual energy that is far more than the sum of the individual energies of the people there. Buddhist meditation and study groups have become a growing part of my spiritual practice in recent years. A few years ago, I joined a Buddhist study group and meditation circle. I tried several styles and ways of meditating, but have settled on a simple process focused on my breathing. It has been transformative. When I practice it regularly, I'm a better person. I sleep better. I'm kinder and more patient with myself and people around me. My work and living spaces are less cluttered. I'm courteous in traffic. When I ask Alexa to do something, I make nice. I always say, please and thank you. Moreover, when I'm practicing this, I feel tuned into a rich inner world. My feelings are readily accessible, usually positive. But if I do experience bad feelings, they are easier to deal with. As good as all this is, it's way too easy to fall out of the habit. My meditation process is a routine, and anything that disrupts my overall routine eats into my practice. And because I'm not a monk and live an active life, there will be distractions, especially this time of year. Also, I've never been good at keeping routines, even though I like them. If I get out of the routine, out of the habit, my life changes noticeably. I'm less patient and sometimes feel irritable, but don't even know why. I can wake up cranky at 3 a.m. with nothing particular on my mind. Life is still pretty good, but it's not as sweet as when I'm keeping up with my practice. I think it's thus with all of us. Our spiritual lives will ebb and flow as we live out our daily, busy, and sometimes complicated lives. So in conclusion, there is no conclusion. We will keep seeking that ever deeper spiritual connection that will take us beyond ourselves. Sometimes we feel like we're really getting there, only to find it slip away as the ground shifts under our feet. But we continue on, carried forward by the meandering currents of our busy and somewhat complicated lives. Thank you.
It is our practice as a religious community to set aside time in our service to name and honor the joys and concerns that mark our lives, the milestones and moments of our lived experience. I will be sharing the joys and concerns that have been offered up for us to hold on our hearts today. If you have a joy or concern that's a bit too heavy to share, I invite you to reach out to the congregational care team or to simply hold it on your heart as you are held in this community. If you are here in the sanctuary, you can identify our congregational care representative by their rainbow stole. From Joanne Sheard. Concern for two dear friends, Bob Cal, Christy's husband, and Mary Kay Davis, both starting treatment for cancer this week. Bob at U of M, Mary Kay here in town. Send good and sacred UU energy to them both. And happy anniversary, Ed and Ingrid Broski. Happy birthday, Joy Platabors. And happy birthday on Monday to Cliff Thompson. And we light a final candle and pause for all of the joys and concerns that remain in the silence of our hearts. And we will now hear my thoughts from Barb Colton.
Hello, I'm Barb Colton, and I'm going to be talking with you today about the impact of small groups on our UU. I come to you fresh from a conversation which I have been a part of with others in our congregation. And I come to you from this latest phase of living with COVID. First, COVID. As we head into the last half of our third year, with awareness of the virus a constant, and having had it in some of our homes, it seems to me we have been rocked in ways that still don't have a name. Perhaps unsteadiness or uncertainty, or a kind of fear hovering in the background, ready to disrupt our flow or even worse. Much of our lives remain familiar, but something remains off-kilter. And the larger world keeps offering news that is also destabilizing, requiring many of us to find whatever it is that will hold us steady, produce inner calm, and reduce our anxieties. And this brings me to share the conversation I've been having with fellow congregants. We have been appreciating the steadying power of our own participation in the variety of small groups which are the heart of UUCGT. These groups include, but are not limited to, any and all committee work, starting points for new members learning about UU, Soul Matters, Transforming Hearts, the Peacemaker Stitchers, the Men's Group, the New Moon Group, the Congregational Care Team, the Vocal Ensemble, the Sunday Services Team, the Board, book groups, and many, many more. Our appreciation stems from the sense of belonging, which comes from participation in these groups, and the heightened sense of being in relationship with one another, which is marked by learning and growing together. This is the process of building beloved community. The purpose of some of these groups is to get things done, complete tasks, work through lists, and attending to these items is itself very gratifying and community building. The purpose of other groups is to learn something new through deep listening to one another while discussing current or interesting or moving topics, sharing in an atmosphere of acceptance and openness. Joining a small group means coming to the table or the Zoom screen and allows for mutual sharing of ideas and purpose, feelings, and perhaps vulnerabilities in an atmosphere geared to support our differences as well as our similarities. We open a door in doing so, a door which swings both in and out. Internally, we may feel seen and heard in ways that are grounding, or that are new and challenging towards our own personal growth. And the door also swings outward. Whether we intend it or not, our contributions will add to the moment and continue the flow between all who are present. Feeling grounded by this type of exchange, we may also bring a bit of our better selves out in the larger world, where we also live and participate. The conversation with my friends has reinforced for me that this web of creating relationships is never really finished. Our community can always grow in strength and interest and complexity. When we join new groups with folks we don't already know, our interactions build new relationships, expanding and deepening our connections and purpose. And now, I'd like to read a poem inspired by participation in many small groups. The poem is called Widening the Circle. If I am but a drop of water, what a gift it is when I fall into the wider reflective pool from a height, which along with gravity endows me with a heaviness. I make an impression, and circling ripples emerge, each held within the last and encouraged by the next. I am both at the center and now a part of the expanding flow, woven through with color of dragonfly wings and rays of distant sun. Back in this pond, I may now be invisible, yet I have made a mark. I feel the vibration still. Thank you.
Good morning. I titled this presentation, Zen and the Art of Photographing Your Soul. I took this title from two sources. The obvious, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which many of you may have known about, but also a photographer whom I've never met, but whose book I've read, who attended a workshop somewhere in the desert states of the United States, and the instructor, a well-known photographer, a revolutionary photographer actually, gave the class and himself, this one that wrote the book, the assignment of going out into the desert with their camera and taking a photograph, finding a photograph of themselves. That's a big daunting task. It doesn't mean a selfie. It means finding your soul in a subject that you're involved with. So that experience, it turns out, completely broke down this fellow's life. He ended up becoming a Zen Buddhist, a master, a Zen master, and becoming an abbot of the Buddhist monastery in New England. This result is one that you would call waking up, being here now, encountering life as it's meant to be. So here I have chosen to speak about, excuse me, about how my spiritual life has been nourished by my photography and how my photography has been nourished by my spiritual life. Let me explain. using some images. Natural Grace is the title of this one. There are two essential ingredients in this image. The simplicity of form. It is simple, it's quiet, it's restful. The second is the dominance of the horizon. Horizon is one of those things that if you live near the Great Lakes, you're very familiar with. It dominates our scenery. Trying to capture the visual impact of the Great Lakes is all about the horizon. It's always present. How to make the photograph carry its impact is one issue, but the second one is, why does it interest me? What is it about a horizon? It beckons, for me, it beckons. It forces questions upon me, upon us. What is out there? What lies beyond? Horizon, however, is a concept. It's something that moves as you move. It changes with the weather. It changes with your height. So it has a sort of mystical meaning. Wow, it works. I continue looking for this meaning of horizon by another photograph in which I've lowered the horizon line extremely down towards the bottom, very low in the frame, exaggerating the vertical dimension, which focuses our attention on that blue space above, our connection to what lies above. So we have earth, water, and the universe. The vertical now becomes dominant, forces us to ask about our connection to that, the unknown, the mystery, a feeling of endlessness. In this next one, we exaggerate it even further. Extending the vertical dimension, you can almost feel the stretch to an infinite unknown. The edge of the cosmos, the insignificance of humans on Earth, even of our Earth, or our lives as a part of that infinite. Is this cosmos, the unknown, our future? Is it dark? Is it frightening? How do we relate to it? As a reference in this photograph, the very small horizon line at the bottom, the black line that runs across there, is the shoreline of Canada across Whitefish Bay. More contemplation, more awakening, more perspective. Now I get a little bit strange, and I add a moon. This obviously was not a real photograph, it's a composite. But it tells a story, and that is that the emptiness of this cosmos, in fact, has a foreground, which is the moon. This little planet of ours has this body that rotates around it once a month. It's like a friend, a gift from that cosmos, so influential to our human life. The meaning of this bright rock has had such a huge influence on life on Earth, from religions to tides to everything you can imagine. How we wonder and gaze at this body of rock that circles our planet. More wondering, more awe. But there's more. This is labeled transcendence. We finally name it. Mysticism has now formally found us. We make up connections with all of the story. A connection, a bridge, messages perhaps. We look up. What is the source of all this? Are we connected? Is there a message? Now we are thinking, feeling, finding a mystical experience, being here now, being awake, aware. The last in this series, and there's another one yet to come, I'm afraid I go beyond my 5 minutes, This is about endings, the death of a loon, also in Lake Superior, also in Whitefish Bay. We finally must recognize and ponder endings, finiteness, the circle of life, the reality of impermanence, our impermanence. It means a lot to this group, right? Questions about destination, meaning, facing our limitations, and is death what ultimately gives life meaning, makes it special? At this point, I'd like to change to another genre. People. They are the other dimension, that which connects us to our human community. Always wondering about that internal and interconnected connection. To see the connection, watch the eyes. Look at your eyes. Even your own eyes in a mirror, but look at the eyes of the people you talk with. Look at the eyes in these photographs. You cannot look at this image of Rachel without getting captured by her eyes. They dominate, they penetrate. What is she thinking? What's our connection to her? What's my connection to her, the photographer and the subject? How did this intense beauty come close to me? What goes on in me? How do I experience her? You might guess she's one of my granddaughters. It's a quiet and peaceful photograph, yet with the depth of something going on, trying to perceive what's going on in her mind. I once sat in a zoo watching a gorilla, face to face, about this far apart through a glass barrier. We eyed each other, and I could not help but wonder, what's going on? Even our animals understand the eyes. Another granddaughter, Katie. This is different. Her eyes, an expression of joy, imp-like. She grabbed my cell phone and took a selfie. So this is a selfie. The eyes always tell the story. They make the connection. The means through which we connect. The smile is an expression that also has story in it, but the eyes are the real connection. Another sort of connection. This was taken on a ferry boat out of Dakar, Senegal, to the Isle of Gorée, which was a slave island through which probably 1 million slaves were transported to the Americas. She initially refused the photograph. I had to take a photograph of her, but she initially refused. There was no verbal communication. It was just waving a camera in front of her to see how she felt. She was obviously Muslim. She had tribal marks on her temples. And so I knew that there would be an issue of a Westerner photographing her. But she finally acquiesced after some nonverbal pleading on my part. And this was her response: a demurring from the camera's view, a suppressed smile. What impressed me was her elegance, her pride, her humility, her almost regal bearing. Her self-pose was a gift to me. I did not give her any direction whatsoever, and it was despite the fact that we knew each other, a gift, a connection. And yet another one, a Mayan girl in a family setting in Belize at her home. Her eyes are quite different now, withdrawn. They penetrate me and speak of emptiness, perhaps deprivation or shyness, probably speaking to the distance between her world and mine. And as I look at this, I find myself the one who is lacking, not her. Getting closer to home, our beloved Mark. Again, the eyes. What's actually remarkable about this photograph is that Mark is smiling. Pay attention, though, when you're talking to people, their eyes. But what was that smile? It was a connection, too. And finally, there's one that represents all of us. And one of my great joys in this congregation has been making photographs of lots of people, individually, together, doing things, eating together, etc. And this is us, and it speaks of our community, all of us. Our humanity, our togetherness, the real people we find here, where we search for and manifest our values, such as the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So my mind and my soul are opened and awakened by the universe, by the people I meet and know, and by my attempts to capture that awakening with a camera. To the extent that I have done that, then my spirituality has informed my photography. But making the photograph causes me to ask questions, to see things I wouldn't otherwise see. So in that case, the stories turn the other direction. But I would remind you of this. Art is not an object as much as it is an experience. There are three participants: the subject, the artist, and the viewer. In each of those, it is the experience that counts. The artist has an experience in producing whatever art it is. The viewer tries to find that experience or to listen to their own. So I would ask you, or I don't know what, but judge less art. I always come with a critical eye. It's when I really get into a piece of art that it achieves some meaning. Experience it. Just like be here now. Observe life as it goes on. Wake up to all that is good and bad, moment by moment. Life is. Thank you.
I'd like to let everyone know that there's 2 books on the setting table that of Chuck's photography, and the painting is Bill's, Bill Hislop's. I think you took my papers over there. But yeah, that's okay. I got it.
I took one of my hands too.
That's fine. So this is an opportunity if anyone would like to come up and talk to us about any issue. Anybody? All right, then let's do our closing hymn.
Closing hymn is number 1008 in the Teal Songbook. Please stand as you wish and as you're able. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we
As we extinguish the flame of our chalice today, take a moment to reflect on the thoughtful messages that we heard today. Take them into your heart, dwell on them, and learn from them. Go into the week knowing that today we listened. I would like to thank the participants of the service today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. We will not have coffee today, but you're welcome to visit in the social hall. Go in peace. May it be so.